This video is not meant to scare you, but inform you on what is going on in real estate. I'm going to go over some facts that are uncomfortable in regards to the National Association of Realtors lawsuit that no one else is talking about, as many, including myself, believe there is more to this lawsuit than what we are being told. I'm always going to side on the side of the consumer, and my goal is to lay it all out on the line for you in this video. There will be a twist at the end, so make sure you stay tuned, as that is the part I'm going to share with you that no one else is talking about. Before that, we're going to go over what does the lawsuit mean for buyers and sellers. Does a buyer now have to pay to be represented by a realtor? Should a buyer now contact the listing agent directly? First though, let's work out how much does a buyer agent cost. One change taking place as of August 17th nationwide is a buyer now has to sign a buyer agency agreement with their realtor of choice just to tour a home. We'll go over buyer agency agreements further here soon, but many buyers may be wondering how much I am going to be on the hook for using a buyer's agent. This is the good news, is now buyer's agents, including myself, will be forced to negotiate their commission with their clients up front. But the bad news is the buyer can legally get sued if the buyer doesn't honor their buyer agency agreement they sign with their buyer agent. The answer, more simply put, is that you as a buyer will be able to negotiate the commission with your buyer agent before finding or even seeing the home you purchase. In all honesty, this is why it is so vital to have a trusted realtor that can explain this and is the best at their craft. We hope through this channel and looking at our reviews, you choose us to help you find your home here in Iowa. On your screen right now is our contact info, as we would love to help you move to the beautiful state of Iowa. Give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. What does the NAR lawsuit settlement mean for buyers and sellers? I was always one of those people that wanted to learn something in a certain way. I always loved fishing growing up, and there are so many ways to fillet a fish. For many years, I just used a regular fillet knife, and it wasn't that I was the fastest, but I got the job done. One of my old coworkers was like, "Man, you have to use this electric fillet knife." So like my usual self, I went on the internet and looked at countless reviews of electric fillet knives. I ended up buying one of the most expensive electric fillet knives on the market, and I was stoked to catch some fish and fillet them with my new electric fillet knife. I filleted my first fish with the electric fillet knife and absolutely butchered the fish. I was not so happy and did end up getting halfway decent with the electric fillet knife, but I absolutely hated using this electric knife, honestly. Guess what? I went back to my old faithful regular fillet knife, and I don't have any plans on looking back. This is what we may find with the NAR lawsuit, that is, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. The buyers have a major change that has just went into effect nationwide as of August 17th, and that is if they choose to be represented by a realtor, the realtor is now required by law to have a buyer agency agreement signed by their buyer client before showing a house to any client of theirs. The buyer's agency agreement is going to be different in every state, but the main detail of it that is going to be important is the commission of the buyer's agent. Other important parts of the agreement is if the agreement will be exclusive or non-exclusive, and how long this contract will last. There are other things to go over, but in the 4 buyer agency agreements I have agreed to with my clients since this change has gone into effect, those were the main things people were curious about on the buyer agency agreement, with the commission the main talking point. The difference that will affect the sellers is that the MLS no longer can put out how much a seller is willing to offer to buyer's agents for compensation. The way I have been explaining it to the seller clients that I'm working with is that you have 3 options. One is to not offer a commission percentage to any buyer's agents. 2 is to tell all buyer's agents you're going to give out a certain percentage to buyer's agents. And 3 is to see what the agents write in the offer for commission. and take it into consideration then. Just like my electric fillet knife, it'll be interesting to see if the way real estate done will go back to the way it was, or some sort of way it was done, as the buyers I have talked to all express they don't know how this helped the general public, as they feel it isn't right. They have to sign agreements just to see a home. Does a buyer now have to pay to be represented by a realtor? I have a 4-year-old and she is the sweetest little girl. But just like all 4-year-olds, they are the master negotiators. If they want you to do something, you might as well either decide right then and there if you as the parent are willing to stand on saying no, or just give in right away, as a battle will be had if you say no. Then there are those times where you say yes, but you say as long as you clean up your toys, or as long as you are good for the rest of the day, etc., etc. The point is, there is a compromise you come into an agreement upon between you and your child. Well, the same will be done with having to pay your buyer's agent, meaning it is all up for negotiation. I give 3 realities of how it will work out to my clients. Let's say we agree as a buyer and buyer's agent to X as a commission. My goal is to have the seller pay for my X commission by writing it in the offer. And a good number of sellers have been and will continue to pay the entirety of a buyer's agent commissions. In all honesty, there is a chance that the seller could say, I'm not going to pay any of it, or none of the X commission, or they could pay part of that X commission, but not all of it. We then have 2 options as a buyer and buyer's agent at this point. Let's start with the seller countering back, stating they will pay none of the buyer's agent commission. First, you can pay out of your pocket the full amount of the buyer's agent commission, or we could go back to the table, renegotiate a different commission amount. Same with partial payment from the seller. Either you can pay the part the seller won't cover, or you and your buyer's agent can renegotiate that at that time. Should a buyer now contact the listing agent directly? Growing up, I loved playing and watching basketball. I love to use coaches as an example to make my point when it comes to contacting a listing agent directly. For example, there are legendary coaches in basketball like John Wooden for UCLA, Coach K for Duke, Pat Riley for the Heat, Phil Jackson for the Bulls, and Lakers, and so on and so on. There are also other coaches at every level that are not as well known. Coaches may be friends with other coaches, or they may downright hate each other. This is also true for real estate agents. Some are well known, some are not as well known, and some like each other, and some hate each other. One thing is for certain is that John Wooden wouldn't give his playbook to Coach K, and vice versa. Neither would give any coach, for that matter, the plays they are going to run in the game. The same is true for a listing agent. The listing agent is like the coach from the other team. They have loyalty to their client, which is the seller. The listing agent's goal should be and is to get a big win for their seller client, and that is their duty. It isn't to get the buyer a big win unless it is a big win for the seller client. I will leave it up to you if you want to roll that dice or not. I personally wouldn't go directly to the listing agent for this very reason, as they are on the other team. Now, the part of this all of you have been waiting for. First, I want to show you what this 3-letter agency states for the future. You will own nothing and be happy. Extreme weather events are anticipated. Natural resource shortages, labor shortages. These are just a few. This is all stated by the World Economic Forum, or the WEF. There is a lot more of this bleak outlook on their website, and from the overlords who are a part of the WEF, I want to focus on labor shortages and you will own nothing and be happy. To me, this lawsuit really makes me uncomfortable, as the National Association of Realtors, or better known as NAR lawyers, have not pushed back at all from what I am aware of, and I haven't heard of any pushback that any other realtor I have talked to, which is a lot, about this NAR lawsuit has seen or even heard of. I think that is really weird, as the NAR just settled immediately and gave no pushback whatsoever. Again, from what we have observed as realtors, if other info is out there, please let us know. That is the first weird part, is that there was no pushback whatsoever. The second weird thing is that the buyers have not won at all. Rather than, yes, it will be more status quo to negotiate your agent's commission, but at the end of the day, they now have to sign a legal document with an agent if they so choose to be represented just to see a home. That puts more risk on the buyer as they are now reliant on that realtor to fully explain it all. Also, now there is another step to the process which will slow down the speed of seeing homes. The buyer agent will have to send over a buyer agency agreement for the buyer to sign. And if it is rushed, do you think, one, the buyer will know what they sign? And two, will they get in the home in time to be able to pursue the home if the process is slower? It really makes one wonder, with the lawyers not standing up on the NAR side, and also the weird rule of having to have a buyer agreement just to see a home as a buyer, maybe home ownership is being threatened. I mean, the WEF, who trains world leaders, is on the record stating you will own nothing and be happy. Last, more buyers are going to be pushed to the listing agent, which we already covered why that is a bad idea. There's going to be a ton more lawsuits due to this. Whatever happens, make sure you have a realtor you trust and who can elaborate this all to you. And if you are considering Cedar Rapids as a place to live, make sure to watch this video where I cover avoid moving to Cedar Rapids unless you can deal with these 7 facts.